Loser! You're a loser! Are you feeling sorry for yourself? Well, you should be, because you are dirt! You make me sick, you big baby!
When talking about Dragon Ball, and arguably shonen anime as a whole, one topic that regularly comes up is the matter of how side characters are mistreated. Whether it be through lack of screen time, being punching bags, or just not being relevant compared to the main character, the larger a cast of characters gets in a shonen, the more mistreated some characters are bound to be. While I touched on this in my TN video not too long ago, it isn't exclusively a Dragon Ball problem. Pour one out for 1010, cause God knows Kishimoto won't. But when I think back to all the Dragon Ball characters who have been mistreated by Toriyama over the years, and there are certainly quite a lot of them, the strangest victim of irrelevancy has to be Majin Buu, of all people. By this point, Dragon Ball as a franchise has managed to settle into a sort of rhythm when it comes to who is allowed to be relevant for any given story arc. Goku is the main character, so, much like herpes, he's never going to go away. Vegeta is the perpetual second fiddle, but he still gets plenty of screen time and always has a large amount of relevancy in any given story arc. Gohan, well, Toriyama just keeps recycling the exact same plot for Gohan. He's done it like 3 times at this point. I'm sure some of you have seen the pattern by now. Gohan stops training and becomes weak. Then a new strong bad guy shows up and kicks Gohan's ass. Then Gohan says, "Oh, I have hidden potential," for like the 15th time in his life. Then Gohan gets a brand new transformation and kicks ass. You know, Gohan, you could probably save yourself a lot of trouble if you just hit the gym every now and then.
What an idiot!
The only non-Saiyan hero that really gets anything to do is Piccolo, and even then his relevance tends to vary wildly from story to story. Those 4 are always going to have something to do in any given story arc. Any other member of the Dragon Ball crew? Well, they can go hang as far as Toriyama's concerned. He'll only ever use them if he gets a random impulse to. Like, who in the merry fuck spared a single thought for Android 17 in the years before he turned up for the Tournament of Power? But, unlike 17, Toriyama didn't end up forgetting about Majin Buu for years at a time. Oh no, he makes sure to reference Majin Buu quite a lot, and then never does anything with him. You know, Buu. Pink, stupid, roughly as round as your mother. He was the main antagonist for Z's final arc, and unlike Cell and Frieza before him, he actually managed to live through to the end. Went on to have himself a little redemption arc, and now lives with professional coward Mr. Satan. So are they like a couple, or what?
We used to give each other wet willies and funny arms. We'd play dandy balls and legs a-spread and penis butt.
But ever since Dragon Ball came back with Super, Buu's involvement with the plot can be summed up as...
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Stupid sexy...
Majin Buu.
Let me give you the cliff notes. In Battle of Gods, he ends up pissing off Beerus and then gets beat up by him, which, you know, fair enough. Beerus beats up everyone in that arc, it was his whole thing. Then in the Golden Frieza story arc, he ends up falling asleep while everyone else is fighting for their lives. Okay. And then, during the Universe 6 Tournament Saga arc, he ends up falling asleep and gets disqualified from the tournament before it even starts. Okay. But then when the Tournament of Power is gonna start, he actually starts training and gets a brand new form, Skinny Buu. He actually seems pretty excited about taking part in this tournament, and he's even in the OP, so he's actually gonna...
As you can see, he won't wake up.
It sucks monkey butts like all the fucking rest!
So that's a grand total of 3 story arcs that hinted at Majin Buu, and in all 3 of them he fell asleep before he could do anything. Starting to see a pattern here. I know Toriyama, as a writer, likes to make jokes a lot, but he could try and come up with a different joke every now and then. The question I find myself asking when it comes to this mistreatment of Majin Buu is, why exactly Buu just gets referenced and then tossed aside for a cheap joke every time? Buu is undoubtedly a pretty popular character. His fighting style is fun and unique, as is his personality. More than that, he also has a lot of raw power on his side, so you really wouldn't need to try all that hard to make him seem relevant when it comes to fighting. I'll remind you that Android 17 went from weaker than Cell to throwing hands with Blue Goku because he spent a couple years trying to stop Yogi Bear from stealing picnic baskets or some shit. I guess part of it is that he never really imagined having to write any stories involving Majin Buu as a main character. You know, because the Buu saga kind of was the end for several years. But then one of the worst movies ever made got released and Toriyama seemed to say to himself, hey, let's not have that be one of the last entries to my franchise. Which in turn led to the franchise restarting, which in turn led to a really OP pink monster being friends with the heroes. Really the most that's been done with Buu since Super started comes from the manga where, during the Moro arc, he engages in a mild amount of chicanery involving the Grand Supreme Kai he vored in the ancient past. Personally speaking, I'm of a mind that the manga has been playing second fiddle to the anime ever since Super started, so I don't really count the Moro arc as anything. But if the anime ever does come back and isn't insane clown vomit like this stuff, and they happen to adapt the Moro arc into the anime, then I'll count it as them using Majin Buu for something other than, haha, look at the sleepy fat man.
Oh, a man can dream, though. A man can dream.
One of the reasons I've heard thrown around for why Buu was taken out of the Tournament of Power is that he's simply too overpowered for a tournament context, and on paper that does make sense. In addition to being incredibly strong, like mentioned earlier, Majin Buu does have a pretty diverse power set, like the fact that he can regenerate from seemingly anything, or he can just heal other people if he feels a need to, or he can just turn people into candy, or restrain them with his bubblegum parts, or trap them in energy balls and throw them off the edge of the arena, and these are all pretty overpowered abilities, admittedly. Yeah, as it turns out, giving a bad guy a bajillion-and-one abilities is all well and good, because it creates adversity for the heroes to face off against, but it becomes a lot more difficult to balance when that same bad guy becomes a hero. And that's probably something Toriyama didn't have to take into consideration when the Buu saga ended. But, on the other hand, it's not like you can't write around some of these things, like have a rule in the tournament that says Buu can't heal other people or turn people into candy, stuff like that. Or they could have had Buu remove some of the weaker scrubs from the tournament and then try using some of his stranger abilities against Jiren, only for Jiren to shrug off those attacks before eliminating Buu. That way, Buu gets to actually do something, and you get to have Jiren established as more of a threat by dealing with all his powers without any difficulty. Or, again, just do literally anything with Buu that isn't the same joke you've already done twice before. While I am glad that Frieza was used in the Tournament of Power, because he's one of my favorite characters in the franchise and he was used excellently there, it really didn't need to be an either-or situation there. You could have just had Frieza and Buu in the Tournament of Power. There was no need for that weird bait-and-switch Toei. But that's another thing that comes to my mind whenever I think of Majin Buu. For as much as people mauled over Frieza's usage in Dragon Ball Super, I don't know, the reasoning for Frieza becoming so super powerful always made sense to me. But then again, there are also people that seriously try to put mathematical knowledge to this man's insanity. At the very least, in bringing Frieza back from the dead so many times, they're actually making use of his character and actually are doing some pretty cool stuff with him. Even Cell got brought back for Dragon Ball Super Hero, but Buu? Nah, not a whole lot. Maybe Goku should have brought this weird Pitbull version of Majin Buu back. You could at least count on that one to actually fight and not just laze around like a Mojang employee. I'm of course aware that, with any series, once a cast of characters gets suitably large enough, it can be rather difficult to find things for all of them to do. Huh, now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why Channel Awesome went downhill. But I think that when any writer reaches this crossroads, there are two options before them. They can either think of something for this character to do, or that character can fuck off for a while. And at this point, I think Majin Buu is playing hopscotch around the fuck off region. But speaking of options, while you're here, how about you hit that subscribe button, buddy?